Okay, that sets the premise for my question, or the basis for my question.
In April, LeftMN blogger Steve Timmer and host Tim O'Brien talked about Polymet Mining Corporation's controversial open-pit copper and nickel mine and processing plant.
They have come up with a final environmental impact statement.
Open-pit mining would occur 6 miles south of Babbitt on part of the Superior National Forest and land owned or leased by Polymet. Processing for copper, nickel, cobalt, platinum, and palladium would occur near Hoyt Lakes. Steve Timmer is among the knowledgeable who feel the Polymet project is too risky.
Steve, in your blog, you had a kind of a status report of the environmental statement and how it could be commented on relative to Polymet mine, the open pit mining that's proposed to be built up in the Babbitt-Hoyt Lake area of northern Minnesota. Now, this is kind of a complex situation. You have the strong, hardcore Democrats from northern Minnesota, and they're all pro-mining. And you have the environmentalists, some of whom, of course, live up in the range area, but substantial more live in the Twin Cities and surrounding areas. So you have a fight right there between the northern people, the northern Democrats, and the southern or central Democrats. You have the situation where the government has a role to play. They have to permit this facility. Everyone, I think, acknowledges, everyone that at least is willing to think rationally, acknowledges that this mine is going to, which has a subheading of sort of sulfide mining, is going to release chemicals into the groundwater up there that will be detrimental to the area. The groundwater, these chemicals can seep into the groundwater. This mine is not going to be operated in perpetuity. It's going to be exhausted after some period of time. And of course, the question is, then what happens? And people who thought about it come to the logical conclusion, well, you better have somebody that's there other than the state of Minnesota to ensure that those waste products are contained and that the site is cleaned up and that the tainted water is treated. Okay, that sets the premise for my question, or the basis for my question. What's going on?
Well, after several machinations, they have come up with a final environmental impact statement that the parties kind of in charge of the thing, the Department of the Interior, Forest Service, the Corps of Engineers, and the Minnesota DNR have all said, well, it's okay, it's adequate. So now there are people who disagree with that.
It's adequate in that the way it's been presented, it can operate. Is that what you mean by adequate?
Yeah, more or less. That it's sufficient to lay out what the risks and so forth are. Okay. And it probably doesn't, because for among other reasons, the water model it is probably defective. They'll recapture something like 90% of the water that they use and filter it, but that means like 10% of the water, which is a lot, will seep away. And where does it go?
Well, it's 10% of contaminated water.
Right, exactly. Away. That's what I mean. And where does it go? Well, they'll say, the mining company, Polymet, says, well, it'll go south. And some of it will, into the St. Louis River Basin. But some of it, because it's groundwater, may go north as well, into the boundary waters.
I didn't realize that was the mining company's position. And obviously, the idea that it would go north into the boundary waters is disturbing. But I mean, do they just say, well, if 10% it ends up in the St. Louis River going south, that's okay? Is that
well,
the
I
point?
guess so.
Isn't that sort of ridiculous?
Well, I find that disturbing, but you know, and you have to think about all the downstream interests, all the wild rice and marine invertebrates and the fish and everything.
All right. So there is a risk, and it's more than a minimal risk. But now I'm Polymet, but I'll take care of it. Don't you want to take my word for it?
Well, we don't have to take their word for it completely, in that we're supposed to get something called financial assurances.
How they come into place? Are they set out in any documents that have been submitted so far?
Not really. What's going to happen is that the DNR is going to say, or has said, well, make us an offer. Tell us what you think is adequate, and then we'll decide whether it is. And I think that's backwards. I think we ought to say, well, this is what you need to do in order to protect us.
Well, what do you think we should get from them?
Well, you know, first of all, we need somebody more financially responsible than Polymet.
Why? Does Polymet have a good income stream?
Well, no, it's never had an income stream. It was formed in the 1990s, I believe, sometime.
Yeah.
It's a Canadian company. The parent company is Canadian. And they have never earned a dime from operations in their entire existence. And yet we're supposed to turn over the keys and ask them not to trash the apartment. And so we need a damage deposit. And I think it needs to be in cash because the water filtration can fail, pumps can fail. They're going to need to filter this water for, you know, potentially hundreds of years.
That's what I understand.
Yeah. And the tailings dam could break, like the one did in British Columbia a year ago, or did just recently in Brazil, which is a horrific disaster. And in British Columbia, when the tailings dam failed at Mount Poly, they found that they really didn't have much in the way of bonds or financial ability to protect. And this was a giant spill into the headwaters of the Fraser River, one of the biggest sockeye salmon runs on the planet. You know, and it's just astonishing that we're even considering doing this, in my opinion.
Well, I can't imagine that there's a sum of money that would be adequate, much less that an outfit like Polymet or its parent or anyone else, even a surety company, would post any kind of bond of that sort or provide cash, as you indicate.
Right. Well, AIG might.
AIG almost went under in 2008. They would have.
Well, my point exactly. It is just an uninsurable risk in many ways.
Well, doesn't this make this project a non-starter?
Well, let's hope they conclude that it is. I have a feeling, though, that if it were up to the Land and Minerals Division of the DNR, that it would wind up being that they would issue a permit to mine. Now, the good news is, anybody who knows the Dayton administration knows that Mark will be the one who makes the last decision on this, and so I'm hopeful that the top administration officials will put a stop to it.
Well, in my estimation, Dayton has been one of the top governors we've had in the last 50 years. So
yeah, here. I agree with that.
I trust him.
Democratic Visions is independently crafted by volunteers, mostly Democrats, from Eden Prairie, Minnetonka, Edina, and Bloomington.